Okay, so I'm just going to do some configuration here. So bear with me a moment. So, so just a moment. So attendees. Okay. And so, okay. So, a very, very good afternoon to you. I hope you're having a really good week so far. I was just talking to Jack about how right now at the start of January here in London, it's how you'd expect London to be. It's cold and wet, but
Atrocious.
it is quite it's quite weathersome out there.
Yeah.
But London does look cool in this. Well, it reflects all the lights beautifully, so don't worry about it. It's fantastic. So I can see we've got quite a few people joined. Could you please, just in the chat, whatever device you're on, you notice you might have some buttons. Could you pop in the chat and say hello, say hi, anything, just so that I know that you can hear us and that you can send messages. Brilliant. Thank you very much for saying hello. That's much appreciated. It's really helpful to know that you can hear us and that we're coming through loud and clear. So, yes, it normally takes a few minutes for everybody great, fantastic. Thank you for that. It takes a few minutes for everybody to log in. Zoom can take a moment for everybody to catch up, so that's fine. Whilst that's happening, I'm just going to say a few words, introduce myself, and explain how this session is going to go. Um, Also, before we really get going, I do want to talk about something we've got coming up, which is we've got some virtual taster lectures taking place in the spring. We've done this every year now for the past few years, and it's something we really enjoy doing, which is when we get our researchers and our academics to talk about something which is really core to what they do. Sometimes they talk about their subject, sometimes they talk about an area of research they're working on, and this year we've got some kind of areas that we're doing two particular strands of vaccines from two different perspectives. We're doing something on lab-grown meat. It's a really exciting series. So as this session progresses, I'll pop a link in the chat. Please do sign up to that. Come along to that. If you're interested in what we do, want to find out what our researchers are up to, it's a really great chance to engage with what we're doing. It's a chance for us to talk about what we're doing away from, an event specific talking about programs. It's also UCL's 200th anniversary, and we're really excited to go back over some of the stuff that's, some of the past things that brought us to where we are and looking at the future as well. So now that looks like we've got quite a few people logged in, so that's great. But it looks like we're doing pretty well there. My name's Kim Morgan. I'm the Outreach and Communications Coordinator here at UCL Biochemical Engineering. And you signed up to a webinar, which is What Can I Do with a degree from UCL Biochemical Engineering? I'm joined by Dr. Jack Jeffries, and he was previously admissions tutor for our undergraduate programs, and he's someone else has taken over now, but Jack is still more than happy to talk to us about
Can't let go.
can't let go. Well,
Can't let go.
Jack has been with the department a long time. We find a lot of our academics came up through the ranks, so to speak. So it's really great to have Jack here. Jack's going to talk about the kind of degrees that we got coming, but we're really looking forward to your questions. If you've got any questions about careers or the programs or studying at UCL, I mean, sometimes people ask about filling in a UCAS form. I know the deadline hasn't quite passed for UCAS, so if you've still not finished your application, by all means ask a question. If you have put your application in and you just want to know more, please ask us away. Um, we've set an hour aside for this webinar. And we will answer your questions. We keep going until they finish, but we don't need to keep going until the end if we've answered them all. Um, but you can message us at any point during this session using the chat function on your device. It'll change from device to device. So if you've got a PC or a tablet or a phone, it might look different, but you should have a series of buttons somewhere on the screen which will allow you to chat to us, reconfigure the screen so you can see me and Jack in a different format. Um, but you can also post questions in the Q&A box. It's really handy because it helps us to manage the flow of questions. Maybe sometimes bundle them together if they're thematically connected. But you can also post your questions anonymously if you want to. So please do pop them in the Q&A box. And now I'm going to hand over to Jack. I will be here in the background as well if I turn my camera off, but I'm going to let Jack talk about careers and present some information, and then we'll start going through your questions. Some people did send them in advance, so we'll get those going as well. But you can put your questions at any time. So Jack, over to you.
Great, thanks, Kim. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year to you, and I hope you had a good holiday period and a good New Year. As Kim said, I'm a lecturer here at Biochemical Engineering, and I did my PhD here. So maybe we need a part of this careers, which is how to get a job at Biochemical Engineering. But I'm the outgoing admissions tutor. So I mean, I really love the job. I've loved the job. I love talking to people, love helping them make their decisions and move forward. So I'm really happy to still be able to talk to some of you about that. So I'm going to talk probably just for about 5, 10 minutes with a few slides, just talking a little bit about what we teach, how that equips graduates to go into the workplace and what sorts of workplaces they may go into. Okay. But it's not so closed as that. And then we'll open the floor, we'll take questions for you. And as Kim said, happy to take questions on all manner of things. I just want to highlight, because sometimes you do get people, this is the undergraduate stream, okay? So if you're looking at master's level, okay, or postgraduate level, thank you for joining us, but it may be better that you approach the postgraduate admissions tutor and join on that, but we're still happy to try and take questions, okay? So without further ado, and if I can wrangle the technology, I will share some slides. Aha, sharing is not turned on, which is the first instance, okay? So we'll get over that. Okay, good, here we go. And I will share my slides and I will go to presentation mode and let's just see slideshow. Is that coming through as slideshow? Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, again, welcome. And this is just a little short bit focused on careers. We do have a longer video, which is about the admissions process with a real deep dive into the courses and what is structured. And I think that's on the internet, which you can get access to. You may have seen already. This is really focused on thinking about that next step, right? After being with us. So what might be really useful when you're thinking about where you're going is what is it you're going to be learning when you come to study with us at biochemical engineering? And I always like to say that biochemical engineering really is about learning all of these different disciplines. And you might look at that and think, okay, I can get the biology, yeah, I can get the chemistry, because it's kind of biochemical engineering and the engineering. Okay, yeah, fine. That's those three components of the name. But why physics? Why mathematics? Yeah, why business? Why medicine? How do these fit in? Okay. And the thing about engineers is they are really that make it different from straight science, research-based science is application. Okay, so engineers have an application focus. They want to take the learning from science, from the understanding, engineer it, design it, and create something that gets translated to the general public. That could be a medicine, it could be a process, it could be a device. Okay. But to do that, you have to understand business, right? Because lots of the way our applications are mediated from institutions like academia or business to the public is through markets, yeah, or sort of state markets like health services. Okay. A lot of the things that we do with biochemical engineering are focused around medicines. Okay, so you need a little bit understand how medicines work. How do you get a medicine approved? Yeah, which is very tightly regulated. How does that interface with the human body? Okay. It's also about developing and making things at scale. Okay, because when you talk about taking things through to market, you're not now making things on the small benchtop scale, like maybe in research-based science where you can look at that small scale. You're talking now at large scale, yeah, consumer demand. So we're talking if you're producing things in a big bioreactor, 10,000s, 100,000s of liters, multiple runs. Okay, how do you design a system? How do you design a process to make things at that scale? To feed a biological system, to aerate it, to stir it, to process it. Yeah. What's the cost of doing that? How can you make sure that your process is efficient, it works every time, yeah, and is um, you know, good value so that your product isn't so expensive that it can't reach anybody. Yeah, that's really the interface of engineering, business, biology, chemistry. Yeah. When you're thinking about fluid flow and dynamics mixing in a reactor. You have to understand a bit of the physics, some of the mathematics. All of these things come together, okay, for a biochemical engineer. So we teach a little bit about all of those things in the degree. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I just want to touch on the type of degrees that we have. So we have really 2 degrees with 3 streams. Okay, so we have our engineering degree, and you can do a 3-year variant of that, the BEng. Okay, and you can do a 4-year version of that, the MEng, which has that integrated master's year at the end. Okay, and that's biochemical engineering. Okay, so we teach in the year 1 the fundamentals, we build on that. You do a design process and a project in the 3rd year. Okay, and if you're in the BEng, you leave at that year with a BEng, yeah, which is like a bachelor's in engineering. Or you can choose from a range of disciplines in the 4th year, do a 4th year, and you get a master's in engineering. Okay, the other stream we have is a BSc stream, the bioprocess of business of new medicines, okay, management of new medicines. And that's really for students who want to be involved in the development and the management of companies that are involved in creating and bringing to market a lot of new and advanced therapeutics. Yeah. And as we move into the future, a lot of new medicines are really being developed and designed, treatments for cancer, treatments for, vaccine production, a lot of new gene therapeutics. Yeah. And that course has much more of a focus on the commercialization aspect. So you'll take modules in law, in management, alongside modules in biochemical engineering, because we believe it's important that people who run those businesses understand the underpinning science and engineering. Okay, so those are the sort of routes that we offer. The BEng and the MEng are accredited degrees. And what that means is that if you complete that degree and then go on in your life after to work in the engineering discipline for another 4 years, you can apply to become a chartered engineer. Okay. And that means you are accredited by the Institute of Chemical Engineers, chartered engineers, and that has impacts on your earning potential across the course of your career. Okay, so the pathway for accreditation, you have to do an accredited degree, and our BEng and MEng degree are accredited. You work in the industry or in the sector for another 4 years, and then you can apply. Okay. What sort of things do biochemical engineers make? What sort of businesses come out of biochemical engineering? What's the expertise in research that we have in the department? We have a lot of research and expertise focused around vaccines and antibiotics and therapeutics, what we call macromolecular medicines, yeah, large medicines, not small drug molecules like paracetamol. That's like a small molecule. We're talking about vaccines or antibodies or things like, yeah, antibodies for your cancer treatment or things like that. We have expertise in regenerative medicines, cell and gene therapies. So thinking maybe now more about stem cell therapy, regrowing organs or tissues. But as techniques and science advances, we're also talking about gene therapies, so gene editing or cancer therapies based around taking out your white blood cells, reprogramming them to attack your specific cancer, then feeding them back to you. So we're talking about those sort of advanced therapeutics as well. This strand also, interestingly, brings in some research in the department, which is around lab-grown meat. Yeah, because lots of the techniques for growing mammalian cells or cell expansion have applications in lab-grown meat as well. That's not listed on here, but that kind of sits underneath there. And also areas like industrial biocatalysis or industrial production of bio-based production, which is a lot of the work that I do. So trying to find alternatives to petrochemical-based products, yeah? As you probably know or may not know, lots of your medicines, lots of your materials, lots of the chemicals that you use and we use in our everyday lives are sourced from fossil fuels. Now, of course, that has a big impact on climate change. We need to move away from fossil fuel-based feedstocks. Can we replace some of those processes, all of those processes, with bio-based versions? Yeah. So lots of research in the department goes on around that. And that ties in with synthetic biology, engineering biology. How do we engineer these living systems to do all these different jobs? Okay. And biochemical engineers are involved across a huge scale difference. So, frontline research may be on the very small scale, the milliliter liter. And as I said, when you're going towards production, you're up to thousands or 10,000s of liters. Okay. But not just the production, biochemical engineers are involved in the processing of what comes after. Once you've grown and made your thing, how do you prep it? How do you get it into a form which is good to take to the consumer? And if we think about medicines, the regulation and the quality assurance and control of those processes is very tight, as it should be, to make sure that, when we take our medicines, we can rely that they are pure and they're not going to give any nasty side effects, yeah, from bad processes. And biochemical engineers are involved across that whole, what you might call value chain. Yeah. So that's a really quick whistle stop tour. You may have seen some of that before if you've seen our other videos of what biochemical engineering is, how that's involved with business, how that interfaces. Yeah. What sort of industries do our graduates work in? What can they work in once they've come to us and learned some of those skills? Well, obviously they can work in the biotech sector. Yeah. Doing stem cell or pharmaceutical research, or advanced therapeutic research, or in pharmaceutical companies. Okay, they've got that expertise. Yeah, they can go on and work in petroleum or chemical companies. That's a bit more of the traditional route through chemical engineering and biochemical engineering. Okay, they can work in industrial biotech, so they might be doing um, synthetic production or biosynthetic production of pharmaceutical compounds using enzymes. Okay, they might be producing value added chemicals like oils or fats or flavor and fragrance molecules. Okay, using green biotech. Yeah, lots of our students, well, not lots, but a significant portion of our students can also go to work within sort of the finance sector and management consultancy. They can make that move because when they come and train with us, we're teaching them the skills of sort of analytical rigor, data analysis, an understanding of business markets, yeah, forecasting. So they have that skill set on top of sort of a scientific and analytical rigor, which is really sort of what's the word? Attractive to these types of sectors. And of course, as the biotech sector grows and gets larger, the management consultancy sector are hiring graduates who have the knowledge of those sectors to help with the management consultancy in that sector. We also have some students, tends to be more common postgraduate, to go and work in patent law, okay, or scientific journalism. And of course, lots of our students go on to do more research, either postgraduate on a master's or a PhD or an ND, yeah, and they'll go on and they'll work in academia. So we've got a little snippet here of some of the key metrics from our last cohort. Well, actually, it's the cohort before the last. The newest results haven't been released yet, and sort of where they've ended up. And this is at undergraduate level. Okay, so this doesn't include our postgraduate or PhD cohort. Okay, so most of the students, about 60 to 70%, go on to work in highly skilled work. Okay, with the rest mostly going into study or other work. Okay, the average salary is just under 40,000, although keep in mind that this is now two cohorts back, so not last year's cohort, but the cohort before. Okay, and 94% of those people who responded are in a positive destination. Okay, what sort of sectors do they go to? Okay, about a quarter, 25% of them go into manufacturing. So that could be with a big company, okay, something like GSK or Eli Lilly or AstraZeneca, okay. They'll be using that engineering knowledge base, okay, and they'll be working there. Another 20% will go into maybe the R&D side. They could still be working within those companies, but they're not necessarily working on the shop floor, on the plant floor. They may be working in their R&D areas, which is more like small scale laboratory research. Okay. Then we have a breakdown of other things. People go to consultancy, policy and government, higher education, okay, health and social care, but mainly our graduates go on to work within that sort of sector or in and around that sector. Okay. And most of them, 95% of them, were in paid work for an employer. So we just put up a few sort of names of the places where some of our graduates have gone. So from the BSc degree, you can understand that they've got much more focused on the business side and the management side, of course. So they have a tendency to go work as management consultants or business analysts, either with a big firm like McKinsey or Deloitte, or maybe embedded within companies like GSK, AstraZeneca. Okay. They might go on to be industrial relations officer. They might go on to do further study, MSCs, okay, or they'll take a sidestep perhaps into more finance oriented work, like working at some of in the city, really big institutions like Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, but they may find work within those institutions which has a focus on the biotech sector. Okay. Our BEng and MEng cohort obviously can follow the same path, and they do go on to be management consultants and business analysts. A lot more of them go on to work as production and process engineers because that's kind of what the core they've been trained in. Yeah, so they'll work for those companies on the shop floor and in the R&D. They might do further study, okay, and lots of them do go on to study a PhD or an ND and get that higher level professional qualification. And of course, we put some of the names here where they go to work at GSK, Eli Lilly, AstraZeneca, places like that, yeah, where they go to find work. Because of that, because of where our graduates go, we have quite a large alumni network at a lot of these places. Okay, so our graduates have gone there. That is a great resource for our current students because, of course, there's a network which we can tap into. Yeah, an informal network, an informal network to communicate and discuss. But it also helps in our teaching because these graduates often, and they will come back and help in our teaching, either to do presentations in lectures, to pass on their experience, or as an example, in our third year, we have something called a design project. That's where we set our students the challenge of designing a process to produce a medicine from designing the facility, identifying a market, predicting and forecasting how much it will cost, how much investment you need, what's your return, when are you going to make a return. Our graduates at these companies will come back and they'll help us mark like external examiners on those things. So it's a real two-way street. Yeah, they're still feeding back into the department. I wanted to put this slide in because I didn't want it to seem like it was just those formal routes that we have. Um, we also are very proud of uh, a history of our students and our graduates making startup companies. I have here mostly PhD researchers, but it's not unheard of for undergraduates as well to go on and do startups. And in the recent history, we've been quite successful with spinning out companies that have gone on to do very well. So Puritify was bought out by what is now Cytiva, or was GE Healthcare, and they operate as a company within that larger corporation. Accitan is doing very well. It's incorporated in America quite recently, and they've got a big plant over there. Faber Futures is an interesting one. It was an art student who came to visit us and built up a company from that about using microbial systems to produce dyes for high fashion. And most recently, there was a biotech sort of synthetic biology company that span out from the department, which is still operates in London at the back of King's Cross, and they are successful in raising revenue. So I just wanted to show that we also have a bit of a startup culture within the department. We like to support and start up, and that makes a lot of sense because we're doing a lot of very groundbreaking research, which can then go on and be commercialized. Okay. Okay, I don't want to say any more than that. It's a real quick, hopefully quick tour of what we do and what you could do if you come to do a degree with us. If you have any questions, you can contact me, of course, or our careers liaison officer, Dr. Mike Sulu, whose email address is up on there and will be in the recording now. And just a few pictures, of course, to show what we look like in the department. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
Um, so just a reminder, if you've got any questions, I've seen somebody's found the Q&A function, which is great. Please put your questions in the Q&A box. You can post them anonymously if you want to, if that's what you want to do. It's absolutely fine. And also just a quick reminder, this session's being recorded. We will share a link afterwards so you can watch it back. So if you missed anything, want to review it, or for those people who couldn't make it, and some people did send a question in advance, then you'll be able to watch that afterwards. Also, I just wanted to say, Jack, in terms of undergrads, there was Jordan Turnbull, I think he was actually mentioned in Forbes ones to watch list. So I think him and his colleagues have just raised $5 million for funding for a
Wow.
startup, and they've got some really exciting work going on with Moorfields Eye Hospital. So we could spend a lot of time talking about the startups that they've done. But yeah, so I'm just going to refer Jack to a question that we had earlier, which is somebody asked about help with finding internships placements, practical work placements, industry training, research projects, summer jobs as part of the degree. Um, Jack, I'll let you talk about that and maybe chip in if I can.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a really good question. There are kind of two streams that people tend to look for when they're looking at internships. There are people who want to look for sort of more finance or business-based internships, and there's something called what's it called? It's called can you remind me? It's something week, isn't it? I can't remember the name. Internship week or and that is a week where people put their applications in and that's supported. Um, when it comes to more research-based things in the labs, we what we tend to do is that's on an individual basis, and it's usually through funding from other charitable bodies or societies. So places like the Microbiological Society or the Wellcome Trust, they will often have uh, pots of money that students can apply for, which supports them working in the research labs in academia. Okay, so that's one route to get research and experience within the institution. The other way to do it is, of course, approach companies who work in the research space and apply for internships. Okay, and we supply support with that based on how to tailor your CV, how to make your open, how to address. Yeah, and we obviously have links with these companies. So if they have places or schemes, they will ask us and we'll make that available to the student body as well. We'll say, okay, there's a scheme coming, there's some availability, apply through here. Okay. That's one sort of route. Okay. We do run, and we're running again this year, iGEM. We have an iGEM team. And that, so if you guys are familiar with that, that's the International Genetic Engineered Machines competition. And we run a team every 2 years, or trying to run a team every 2 years. And that obviously gives students the chance to work in the lab for 6 months over a summer period and then go to the Jamboree and present. So that's a way of getting experience and exposure. And we tend to have companies spin out of that. So there's been two recently of the iGEM teams which have sort of tried to commercialize their idea from there as well. Um, I'm trying to just think, and summer jobs as part of the degree. So these things are not integral to the degree, as in you do not need them to pass your degree. Okay. However, we have support networks and there are routes to do which allow you and support you to get these internships. So that's, I just want to make sure that's clear because the way the question is phrased, it makes it sound like it's part of the degree, but you may think it's like marked or monitored. It's not. Okay. We have these things which are part of our work to support students and grow them and challenge them and train them, but it's not like a marked thing. You don't gain marks for it. It's really just to build your confidence, build your experience, and build your CV. Okay, I hope that makes sense.
I just
Kim?
just want to chip in as well and say that we've got a really at the moment particularly active undergraduate student society, event society, and the person who was the chair last year was actually working with Sartorius at the same time as doing her degree. Um, so she was very engaged. They held networking events. The current undergraduate committee, they've arranged a webinar on using AI to develop drugs. So they're engaging with companies. We kind of support you and give you the opportunity to do it. But this is your chance to grow your CV, develop your sales, create your networks, and support each other. And it's amazing to see how students do it. So we provide the opportunity for students to do that and really let you run with it. It's an amazing environment. The UCL name brings a lot of cachet with it, and you can actually use that to leverage people to engage with us. Also, I've had students talk to me after doing summer placements, and some have said it was really great. That's where I want to go to. One student said it was really useful. I found out that I really don't want to work in this type of a company. I don't want to work in a startup because I like know exactly what I want to do within a big company
Same.
organization. It's really useful, and that was so helpful to her because she went and worked up with worked with GlaxoSmithKline, and she knew that was what she wanted to do, having had a good experience, but really finding out that's not what she wanted to do. So we will support people, but there's no formal routes to do it because we kind of help you find your own route to that itself. Um, I actually, whilst we're on this one, I want to take you straight through to a question that's come through, which is there a year abroad, a year in industry? Because I think that really follows on from this, Jack.
Yeah, so there is a year abroad and a year in industry in the 4-year MEng, and it is based on attainment. So UCL is part of the let's start with year abroad. So UCL is part of the year abroad scheme. We have partner institutions where you can go. You apply to do that stream roughly at the end of your second year, and you have to apply to those universities and be accepted. And therefore, of course, there are some institutions which are extremely competitive. They make the selection, and that is based on attainment. Yeah, so you have to have a certain grade average. You have to be scoring well enough to make it onto the course and then get accepted in the place that you want to go. But yes, we do have a year abroad, and we have a year in industry. We try to, and we like to have at least 4 to 5 placements with companies per year available. But of course, it's very competitive. Lots of people want to do that. And that again is based on attainment. So, we're taking for those positions, it's competition within the cohort, and it will be based on attainment first. So you have to have good scores, and then the companies will run interview rounds, of course, and then make their decision based on that as well. So we have both of those things, but as I said, they're competitive and they're based on attainment. So it's not a guarantee. Yeah, they are available, but you have to be able to, get a certain grade and get your place on those streams. Does that make sense? Cool. Shall I go to the next question, Kim? So let me just read it out. Can biochemistry engineer degree be applied in other fields outside of its core disciplines, such as fuel development in aerospace engineering? It's a really interesting one. We do teach, I didn't go into detail, but part of the engineering program is IEP, Minors Integrated Engineering Program. You share modules with the other engineering streams, including chemical engineering. Um, so you will be getting chemical engineering teaching. In the second year of the engineering degree, you get to choose your minor, your IEP minor, which is an optional module. And if you're interested in sort of chemical engineering, because that sounds a lot more chemical engineering focused to me, then you can do a module which is a minor in chemical engineering, and that may apply more to sort of fuel dynamics. However, if you feel that you are really interested in um, doing things around sort of jet fuel for aerospace engineering, I mean, I would suggest that it's probably best to look much more into a degree stream which focuses on that sort of thing. Not saying it's impossible, but if you feel that that's really your interest, then it may be better to look for a stream which is sort of dedicated to that. How intense is biochemical engineering compared to the other engineering degrees? All engineering degrees at UCL are rigorous, yeah, and require your full input. Yeah. And that's true of all engineering degrees. We want to maintain a standard. We need to produce the best. We take the best. We want to produce the best. So it will require your input and your time. Yeah. And that's true of biochemical engineering. It's true of chemical engineering. It's true of biomedical engineering. The only difference is the content of those degree streams. Yeah. Hopefully that's.
I just want to jump in and say a couple of people have asked questions that I've answered directly because they are specific to you, your particular, you're asking something very specific about yourself. So I've sent you some links. If you have further questions, please do come back and I'll expand on it. But I just want to send you a link and reply to you directly if you've asked a question that I've replied to you privately about. There's another question which came, it's an interestingly phrased question, which is, from your experience, are there things that a student really should not dislike if they want to study biochemical engineering? So, I mean, if you struggle with physics, would you go for this course? I think it's an interesting question. What would you say, Jack?
That's a good question. We have requirements for entry. Okay, so for the B-Eng and the M-Eng, you are required to have mathematics as a degree at an A minimum. Yeah. And the reason we say that is because when you're doing the learning around thermodynamics, fluid flow, engineering, statistics, you need a basis in mathematics to do that. What's where do physics and mathematics diverge is an interesting question. Um, it's not particle physics. You won't be doing nuclear physics. You're not going to be doing theoretical physics. The physics we're talking about is much more physical physics, the properties of liquid in flow, in motion. Okay. So uh, if you I wouldn't say physics is a big part of the course, but it is, the maths which underpin some of those physical properties are a big part of the course, but that's a requirement. So if you don't have that, you couldn't come anyway. I mean, if you really hated biology and chemistry and engineering, I'd suggest you don't do biochemical engineering. But I think physics is not such a large component of it. Yeah, physics as a discipline doesn't really appear, but there are some parts of, physics. Thermodynamics, of course, is a physical is physics really. Fluid flow in motion, but really, it's that's being taught through the lens of engineering and the mathematics needed to model that. Yeah, when you're designing your reactors. So it's not heavy on the physics, I would say. I hope that answers the question.
Also, it's just to give bit of feedback from students. The reason that students say they really like doing biochemical engineering, or some have said what really attracted them was because they'd enjoy doing biology and they'd enjoy doing chemistry, and for them it was a chance to combine these. So that's something which does come up frequently. Um, I put a link in the chat to the undergraduate page on our website. It links through to the 3 degrees we do, the B Eng and ME. It's the same except a 3 or 4 year program, and the BSc, which is a different program. Have a look at the modules in that because that'll give you a really good feel for the content of the program. You can see exactly what the subject is, what the learning, how it's taught, how it's assessed. Go through this, and this is advice for anyone you look. I mean, I'm sure you're looking at other universities, other degrees. Have a look in detail at the program and look at the modules because that'll tell you exactly what the content is. And we provide this information in a really comparable way to other universities, so you should be able to see it really clearly, how many credits it has, how it works. So you can see if it's got a lot of weight in an area which you think maybe that doesn't interest you, that should tell you something. However, if it inspires you, that should tell you something else. I hope that's helpful. There are a couple more questions coming through.
Yeah, I've got one which is what are the universities for the year abroad? And in the chat, I've put the link to the page where that's described. Okay, so because I won't list them all in detail, but we have institutions in America, in Australia, in Canada, Hong Kong, Singapore. Have a look on there, filter down by biochemical engineering, you'll see the full list. Okay, some of those are going to be more competitive than others. Yeah, so that's why I'm talking about attainment. And of course, it's not just UCL you're competing with, then it may necessarily be people from other institutions. But if you want to have a look at the full list in Biochem Eng, you just drop in there, filter down by Biochem Eng, and you can have a quick look, okay? Good. On the personal statement, how much focus should be put on extracurricular activities that relate to biochemical engineering versus papers you've read online and courses? That's a really great question. UCL was founded to enhance and increase accessibility to higher education, in particular within the context of the UK, or Britain as it was at the time, for women and non-conforming Christians, people of non-Christian religion, yeah, because they weren't allowed to attend university. UCL tries to maintain that ethos, okay? So what we try to do is make sure that people are not disadvantaged because they don't have the socio-economic access to experiences and you know what's the word I'm looking for? Experience that other people have. So on your personal statement, it's not, and if you can't get a lab job or you can't get experience in a hospital or you can't go that place, it doesn't count against you. Okay, because some people just don't have the access and the ability to do that. So the question to me was, what extracurricular activities do you need, right, to get in? There's no minimum requirement of extracurricular activities like that you require. I won't look there and say they've got this, and this. They can come, okay? Because some people won't have access to that. Conversely, you don't need to sit there and list, I've read 10,000 papers of this, and that's why I can come. Yeah. What I'm looking for, well, apart from the fact that you need to meet our grade requirements, what I'm really looking for, what we really look for are people who are excited and motivated and enthused and engaged with the subject, yeah, with what we're teaching and how that affects the real world. So if you've seen something about some new cancer treatment and it's caught your imagination, and you can see how it applies to you and you want to be involved, write about that. If you do have the experience in a lab, put that in as well. We're not going to hold it against you, but it won't limit you either if you don't have it. What I'm looking for are students who are engaged, enthused, and motivated, excited to come and study. And the reason for that is because those are the students who'll do well. Yeah. Those are the students who are going to excel because we all know in our personal lives, in our private lives, if you enjoy something, if you're excited to do it, if you're can't wait to do it, you're motivated, that thing is easy to do. Yeah. It may be hard conceptually, but you can pick yourself up, you can motivate yourself to do it because you love doing it. Though that's how we do things. That's how you get on. That's how you do things well. So if you can bring that joy, that enthusiasm, the excitement across in your personal statement, and it may be by showing that you've done this placement and what you learned there and how exciting it is. It may be because you've read a paper that really caught your imagination. It may be that you saw a news article about some new cancer treatment and how it cured someone, and that's caught your enthusiasm. It could be any of those different things. Yeah. It could just be a love of the subject. If you can bring that across, that's really what we're looking for. I hope that makes sense. I hope that's clear and easy to understand. If you have done those experiences, please put them in. But if you sat there and you listed all the things that you've done and your enthusiasm and why you did it didn't come across, I'd be like, okay, great, this person's had a lot of experience, but do they really, do they really enjoy it? Do they really love it? Are they in it for the love of it? So make sure that comes across in the personal statement. That's my one piece of advice that I give to people all the time.
Um, I've just had one thing. Somebody's asked about the recording. We'll send a link afterwards to the recording. This will be uploaded online, and you'll be able to watch it afterwards. So it will be made available publicly. Um, there are a couple of people who've asked about biomedical engineering and how it relates to biochemical engineering. Um, I mean, just briefly, biomedical engineering at UCL works a lot with devices, medical equipment, so sort of implants, as well as things like um, uh, medical physics, so things like radiotherapy. But it tends to be very much the human body
Yeah,
and engineering around that.
yeah.
Very exciting area, very good fun, but really quite different to biochemical engineering. Having said that, we do get a lot of emails and inquiries about because it's a very similar name, so I really understand that.
Yeah,
Jack, do you want to?
as Kim says, it's much more focused on human anatomy, human patient care. Okay, and we do develop drugs for human use, but we're not just that. We do lots of different things: bioindustry, cell and gene therapy, vaccine production, commodity chemical production, bioremediation. We're much broader than that. Yeah, biomed's much more focused on development of prosthetics or devices for human use in the body, really. So it's much more focused around anatomy and understanding that. You're on mute, Kim. I can't hear you. Sorry.
Sorry, a couple more questions have come in, but whilst
Oh,
Jack
perfect.
reads those, I want to just quickly mention our virtual taster lectures that are coming up, um, because sorry, let me just open this list here. So we've got we've got an event on how we build vaccines quicker, and that's going to be really talking about high throughput screening. So that's a very specific kind of technique, and that's by one of our researchers. Dr. Rana Khalife will be talking about stem cell gene therapies and really talking about how you get discovery to the bedside because it's an opportunity to get really exciting and really effective therapies to people in a hospital quickly. And it's personalized medicine. It's an incredible development. Ben Dages will be talking about when lab-grown meat becomes just meat when we don't think of it as any differently. Is that day coming? He's going to talk about the history of lab-grown meat, how we've gotten to this point. Um, so we were also going to be doing a session on how the biopharma sector is using AI and automation, and that's going to be Matthew Banner, who's a postdoctoral researcher. And then the last one that we're doing is how we can manufacture vaccines without cells. And if you imagine the potential for making a vaccine without the need to keep cells alive, without need to get the products from the cells, it's a really exciting area. And it's got the potential to get medicines quicker, cheaper, use far less energy doing it. But of course, it's cutting edge. How do we make it work? So please come along to those, find out more. And as I said, it's our 200th year anniversary at UCL. So we're really trying to show how we've gotten to where we are now. Okay, Jack, we've got a little more questions coming.
Absolutely, and it's great. Please keep them coming in. So, how would pursuing a minor or certificate help expense? So, yeah, so the BEng and the BSc have optional minor credits. Okay, so you can choose to do modules which are optional. Okay, from a suite. The BEng and MEng have a small diet of IEP minors, and they can be things like chemical engineering, chemistry. We have our own biochemical engineering, which is more about stem cell and gene therapy. There's one on policy and public policy formation, which is really interesting, economics or maths. If you do the course and you find yourself you're really interested in chemical engineering, you can tailor your learning with that choice of minor. If you're really interested in chemistry, choose the chemistry. If you're really interested in stem cell and gene therapy, you choose the stem cell and gene therapy minor. And that helps tailor your learning, okay? And tailor your degree. And that I'm going to jump over the question in the middle there and come back to it about the gap year because the question underneath, which is if you are still a student, how will you explore different career paths with this degree? If and I talk to I have personal tutees. We all have personal tutees we mentor, we talk to about their career. They come to me and they say, I'm really interested. I'm a bit more of a lab-based researcher. I'm interested in this strand of research. I say, great, that's fine. Look to do those minors which match with your um, interest and match the career progression you think you have. So if you want to go and work in Eli Lilly, making the new peptide therapeutic, yeah, which helps us all lose weight, like Ozempic, choose something which is maybe the chemistry module minor because they might do solid state synthesis. That's how they make these drugs. Yeah, think about that and tailor your learning. Yeah, and then it may be that their students go on, they say, I want to do a master's and I think I want to have a career in this. I say, okay, look for the master's degree, tailor your undergraduate to match what the entry requirements are to that master's or the general area, and then think about what that master's can deliver for you to help you get to that career. So you do have scope within the core structure that we provided to tailor your learning to A, the thing that really interests you, and B, the thing that you think you want to go and work in. Okay, so that's hopefully answers those two questions quite neatly together. And thank you for those questions. Okay, should you list skills you've gained from your A level, such as problem solving? Absolutely. Paint that picture of yourself as a well-rounded individual. Yeah. This is what I learned. I learned how to problem solve. I learned how to work in a team. I learned how to understand and do research, or if you have that lab experience, or I, um, can think about a problem and analyze it from different ways. Sell yourself, sell the strength of yourself as well. Yeah, alongside your enthusiasm, because that's what we're looking for as well. Okay, so I think that's a really good question. Uh, if you have a gap year on your personal statement due to illness, I think you can include that if you want to address it. Yeah, you just say, I had to have a year out for illness. And if you can say what you built and what you learned from that, absolutely. Yeah, that's not a problem. That wouldn't be held against you. Okay. And we definitely had this year, if Kim remembers, we had a student who had quite severe illness and worked through that and really came through that. And uh he got his required grades after a long struggle, and he came in and he's with us now as an undergraduate. So you can do it. Yeah. Okay. Hopefully that answers that question. I wouldn't spend too much time on it. You can mention, you say I had to have a year out because of illness, but this is how I think it's helped me grow as a person. I've learned resilience and strength from it. Yeah. Is it a drastic step up from A levels to year one? That's a good question. I think when it comes to content wise, not necessarily. When it comes to self-organization, self-discipline, and the ability to drive your own learning, that's where students often see the change. Because at A level, your teacher is seeing you 8 hours a day, they're providing the diet for you, they're checking on you all the time. It's the learning is given to you, you're taking it on board. Okay. When it comes to university education, it's like that. Yes, we provide the content, but a lot more of it is about you then taking that on board, learning it, going out, looking for more information, processing it, learning, helping yourself learn. It's much more self-driven. And making that change, I think, is the thing that students don't struggle with, but find a challenge, more so perhaps than the content, because we have people coming from lots of different backgrounds. With different subjects. So we tailor our content in the first year to have quite a smooth transition before it starts to ramp. I certainly do in my module. Yeah, I get everybody up to the same page, and then we start to, bring up the intensity a little. But it's about, I would say the key thing is time management, self-discipline, and motivation. Yeah. And that's the change. Yeah. You may or may not be away from home for the first time. Yeah. In a new place. So these are all key skills to learn.
Also, I've got one of my colleagues outside the room at the moment, Professor Nicholas Sita, and he and one of his students had a conversation with me because they wanted to talk about one of the challenges that students have is understanding their own areas of strength and weakness. Now, a lot of students say to me that they learn a lot from other students. So they come in chemistry, don't have biology, they have biology, don't have chemistry, and they learn from each other. The program will take you up to a certain level because it doesn't assume the knowledge. But there's a huge amount of cross-fertilization and people learning from each other's expertise. However, one student said to me, together with Nicholas, that the challenge is if with some subjects, you can cram it before the exam if you're familiar with it and you know that you know the subject. Some things take a lot of time for you personally to really become familiar with the subject. And this is where engaging with your tutors is critical. And Nicholas has asked me to say this to students before they start, when they start, because understanding if you're finding something challenging, give yourself time, give yourself the space to learn it in more depth and engage with your tutors. They will help you. They all are here to do this, and this is what they find really rewarding is making sure that people get that in learning embedded. Is that fair, Jack?
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Okay, I'm conscious. Oh, we've got a couple more questions coming again. Great.
Is it okay to switch from a different degree to biochemical engineering? And how would you phrase this in your personal statement? Would it disadvantage you? We are one of the only, if not the only, biochemical engineering departments in the country. So we often have students who want to apply to other places for chemical engineering, but want to apply to us as well. What I say to them is, if you need to write a personal statement, because we don't accept second personal statements, if you need to write a mixed personal statement, just and with biochemical engineering not being the focus, just include something in that statement about biochemical engineering or how that might apply. When it comes to switching, it kind of really depends. If you want to make a full switch to biochemical engineering, you know, you've already submitted, I think that would be very difficult because you'd have to pull out of UCAS. I'm not quite understanding the question, I don't think. But if it's because, and we do get this a lot, people, we're one of the only ones. They don't want to just put us down. So they have to do a mixed personal statement. Just make sure that there's something in there about biochemical engineering. That's the best way to cover that base. If you think about it like this, if you're going to apply to chemical engineering, you can talk about chemical engineering and you can say, lots of departments who are chemical engineering departments actually have a biochemical engineering strand because it's, new. So you can slip something in there. Does having a gap year in your personal statement weaken your chance of getting in? No. Easy answer. Tim,
So
you're on mute again.
there's a question that's come in the chat. Then they're asking, is there any additional support for mature students, or do you find that mature students do well alongside younger cohort? Um, I don't know about this one, Jack.
Sorry, let me come back to this one. Where was this
It's in the
question?
it's in the chat box. So it's a question about
Okay, hang on.
if there's support for mature students, or if they generally get well alongside the younger cohort.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we have a lot of mature students actually. Um, so that's a really good question. I wouldn't say it's something I've come across too much. I would assume that UCL does have a fair amount of pastoral support when it comes to lots of demographics. So there will be uh, college-led pastoral support for mature students. It depends what sort of support you mean. If it's because there are responsibilities around caring or other things, then yeah, UCL does have I don't know if they call them accommodations anymore, but reasonable adjustments which can be made, yeah, to accommodate that. So that's part of UCL policy. Okay. And in general, most of our all of our lectures are recorded and hosted anyway. A lot of content is posted online through our Moodle site, so it is possible to have some accommodation for things like that. If it's talking about integration and pastoral support with integration with a younger cohort, I don't think there's anything specific for that. I think we just, the cohort does tend to come together and work well together, and we haven't seen any issues with integration of the cohort in a sort of what's the word I'm looking at, community-based thing. So it depends. I hope that answers maybe from two sides the question, sort of academic progression and dealing with academic content, and also then community-based progression or cohesion.
And also just to explain, our MSc program has roots in for people from very from engineering or scientific backgrounds. So we see a lot of people who might have done a degree in something like, micromolecular science or even medicine, and then they come into us. So we do see the department does see a lot of people, a lot of more mature students in and around and studying here. So it's not, we've got a very diverse department. Um, there's a question. Somebody's clarified their question about switching degree. I think this is a very interesting question. So that's in the Q&A box, Jack.
Ah, okay, but you are applying through UCAS, yeah? Perfect. I mean, you can just say I I don't think that would hold you back. I think as coming at university and did you enjoy and want to switch biochemical engineering. Again, it's about showing that you're enthused and enthusiastic about biochemical engineering. And in your case, you're so enthused and enthusiastic about it that you've dropped out of your first degree and you've come to study it here, yeah, which seems like someone who's really engaged and wants to do it. So it'd be something like that, I would say. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And just for people who are wondering what the question is about, it's about switching degree from having started another degree somewhere else in a different subject. I mean, you just put your use case, so
Yeah.
that's why we've answered it this way. But yeah, I mean, the question would it disadvantage you? And we don't
No.
see any reason why.
No, because every UCAS form is treated as equivalently. Yeah. So if you apply and you meet the requirements of the degree and things like that, and depending on what your A levels were, you may be in a good place because if you've got your A level qualifications already and you meet the requirement, then then you may. There are part of that cohort are still waiting on those results. Yes, they still have to prove they can get the results. If you've got those, it may mean that offers could be made sooner rather than later. Yeah.
Okay. We've had some fantastic questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for all those questions.
We've got a couple of minutes left. Is there anything that we haven't covered? Anything you want to know? Please pop them in there. I'm going to plug this again because I really want to get some good audiences for our virtual taster lectures in the spring. But please do sign up to that. I'll send you a link when I send a link out to the recording as well. So please do consider joining that. Um, but yeah, thank you to everyone who's watched. But thank you for the questions. Thank you for joining. It's been great to have you with us. Some really, really good questions. I hope we've covered everything you wanted to know there. If you haven't, you'll get my email address. I will be in touch with you. You can get in touch with me. I'll put you in touch with the people. We'll find ways of answering your questions if something occurs to you afterwards. Otherwise, one thing to say as well, we've got an in-person open day, 26th, 27th of June, last weekend in June, Friday and Saturday. So do come along. Sign up early because it gets very booked up very quickly. But come along, see our labs, meet the team. You can chat to some of our students. You can chat to see, a whole range of people here and really get a feel for the place. It's always really exciting to get to welcome you in person. Um, but yeah, there's one more question that's come through. Um, so it's starting to, I've got to be honest, I think it's starting to get a little bit specific about your personal circumstances. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to answer that and give you my email address. The person who's talking about their situation, and if you engage with me directly, I can answer your questions because it sounds like you've got some very specific things you'd like to know. So I'm just going to give you my email address. And ideally we can carry that on offline and I can help you with that. Okay. So I hope that's helpful. So yeah, if anyone else has got any questions about their particular circumstances, I've given you my email address as well. I think that's it. Listen, yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. Jack, thank you very much for stepping in again. Probably
No probs.
your last big blast
I
as
know it's
undergraduate
emotional.
admissions tutor. But thank you very much. Have a great day, and I really hope to see you at UCL, all of you in the future. Have a
Thank you,
great day.
everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye
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 bye.
bye.